Memo lands on LinkedIn on a Tuesday in April of 2025. It's not a press release. It's not an investor update. It's the CEO of one of the most beloved apps on the planet telling the world in plain language that the people who built its heart are being phased out. We will gradually stop using contractors to do work that AI can handle. Within 48 hours, the company's TikTok account, which had 6.7 million followers, goes dark. Their Instagram disappears. Thousands of users with 700, 1,000, even 1,200-day learning streaks delete the app. One user writes, quote, "I broke up with you after a 1,200-day streak because you erased the human touch that made learning a new language feel good." So how did one of the world's most beloved education apps nearly destroy itself? Let's start with the numbers because they are brutal. Its all-time high on May 4th of 2025, Duolingo stock hit $544 per share. 9 months later, it trades under $100. That's a 78% collapse. On February 26, 2026, the company reported earnings. Revenue was up 35%, net income of $42 million, and the stock still dropped 21% the next day. Citi slashed their price target from $270 to $101. Morgan Stanley downgraded. Evercore downgraded. 3 major banks the same morning. The company's 2026 guidance? Revenue growth slowing from 35% to just 15%. A company worth $23 billion at its peak is now not even holding a $5 billion valuation. And the damage isn't just financial. It goes to the core of what Duolingo actually was. To understand what went wrong, you have to understand where Duolingo came from. Luis von Ahn grew up in Guatemala City during a civil war. His mother raised him alone. He attended a private English language school, which is an extraordinary privilege in a country where most children had almost nothing. That contrast never let him. He said, quote, "People who have a lot of money can buy themselves a good education." He also said, "People who don't have very much money barely learn how to read and write." He went on to Carnegie Mellon. He invented CAPTCHA or reCAPTCHA, that horrible authentication software that you and me have to deal with on a daily basis, and later sold it to Google for tens of millions of dollars. At 28, he received a MacArthur Genius Grant. Then, in 2009, sitting with his graduate student Severin Hacker, he asked a different question. What if you could give everyone, every child, every refugee, every adult trying to build a better life, the same quality of language education that rich families pay tens of thousands of dollars for? They then went on to launch Duolingo in 2012. Free, fun, gamified, iPhone app of the year in 2013. By 2018, 300 million people had registered. The app spread through refugee camps, rural schools, and prison programs. Even Bill Gates was using it. So did people who couldn't afford a textbook. The same green owl, the same screen, for everyone. That was the miracle. That was what made Duolingo feel different from every other tech company that claimed to be changing the world. They actually seemed to mean it. Then came the initial public offering. July 2021. Duolingo lists on the NASDAQ. Their valuation soars past $5 billion. And with public markets comes a new obligation. Grow. Grow fast. Grow forever. By 2023, they're already experimenting with ChatGPT 4. They launched Duolingo Max, which is a premium tier with AI conversation practice. Investors cheer. The stock climbs past $400 per share. Then in April of 2025, von Ahn posts his all-hands memo publicly on LinkedIn. The language is unambiguous. Duolingo will be AI first, not AI assisted. AI first. Phase out the human contractors. Evaluate employees on their AI usage in performance reviews. Only approve new hires when a team proves it can automate the work instead. He frames it like a historical bet. Betting on mobile made all the difference. We're making a similar call now, and this time the platform shift is AI. They launched 148 new language courses in a single year using generative AI. The previous 100 courses had taken 12 years to build. To Wall Street, this sounded like infinite content at zero cost. And to users, It sounded like something else entirely. You can understand why they did this. The language learning market has 2 billion potential learners globally. Duolingo had barely scratched the surface, with less than 1% of the market was paying for anything. Growth required scale. Scale required content, and content built by human linguists was expensive and slow. AI could generate grammar exercises, conversation prompts, and vocabulary drills in seconds. You could launch a course in Welsh, in Tagalog, and Swahili in a fraction of the time. And the existential threat was real. Why even use Duolingo at all when ChatGPT can teach you a language in a free conversation window? That logic was sound. The technology was also available. For a while, every signal was green. Daily active users grew 54% year over year in Q3 of 2024. Paid subscribers crossed 10 million. Revenue hit 748 million in 2024, up 41% from the prior year. By May of 2025, the stock hit $544 per share, which is an all-time high. If you were Louis von Ahn in spring of 2025, watching those numbers, reading those analyst notes, you would have felt invincible. That is exactly when the cracks started forming. The first warning came from Reddit, December of 2023. An anonymous contractor, 5 years at Duolingo, posted that their contract wasn't renewed. Their team went from 4 people to 2. The reason given? AI could now generate translations, alternative translations, and basically everything they'd been doing. Duolingo didn't call it layoffs. They call it, quote, offboarding, unquote. But a former content writer said something that should have been a red flag. Quote, we had been working with their AI tool for a while, and it was absolutely not at the point of being capable of writing lessons without humans, unquote. Users started noticing things. The Irish course had AI voices that couldn't pronounce Irish words. Catastrophic for one of Europe's most endangered languages. The Japanese course had pitch accent errors that would teach you to speak the wrong language. The community forums, where learners and native speakers had helped each other for years, had already been quietly removed. Small complaints, niche communities. The mainstream hadn't noticed yet, nor has Wall Street. April 28, 2025. The memo goes live on LinkedIn. The internet does not gradually respond. Within 24 hours, TikTok erupts. Videos tagged #Duolingo rack up millions of views, most of them negative. Users with years-long streaks post their goodbyes publicly. The backlash is so severe that Duolingo deletes all their TikTok and Instagram content. Years of brand building, millions of impressions completely wiped. Von Ahn goes on Bloomberg to explain himself. He calls it a, quote, misunderstanding, unquote.
I think there was some misunderstanding. This basically, I sent an email, an internal email, and there was some misunderstanding.
Then adds, and I want you to hear this carefully, quote, I'm not sure there's anything that computers can't really teach you. I think schools would mostly exist for childcare, unquote.
I'm not sure that there's anything that computers can't really teach you, I think. And you still need, I also don't think schools are going to go away because you still need childcare.
The internet quotes that sentence for weeks. Then the quality reports pile up. AI voices mispronouncing words in endangered languages. Grammatical errors inside a language learning app. The flagship, quote, explain my answer, unquote feature gives explanations that are simply wrong. A former Duolingo writer says it plainly. Quote, the AI output is very boring, and Duolingo was always known for being fun and quirky. It absolutely makes mistakes, even on things you think you could get right, unquote. By June of 2025, growth misses analyst expectations. The stock drops 14% in a single session. Von Ahn softens his language in follow-up statements, but he doesn't rehire the contractors. He doesn't restore the human voice. Then, February 26, 2026, earnings call. Revenue up 35%. Net income up triple digits percentage-wise. Sounds like a win, right? But the guidance tells a different story. Revenue growth slowing to 15 to 18%. Bookings growth dropping to 10 to 12%. Margins expected to contract. The stock drops 21%, then keeps dropping. 3 banks downgraded in a single morning. Citi cuts their price target from $270 per share to $101. from $544 in May of 2025 to under $100 at present moment in March of 2026. 10 months, over 80% drawdown from peak to trough. Over $20 billion in market value disappeared. Here is what actually happened. Duolingo confused the product with the output. They thought they were in the business of producing language lessons. So when a machine could produce language lessons faster and cheaper, they assumed the machine could replace the people who made them. But that's not what users were buying. When you opened Duolingo every morning, when you tapped the green owl on your commute, when you kept your streak alive through a brutal work week, you weren't buying vocabulary flashcards. You were buying a feeling and a connection. A feeling that someone had thought carefully about how to make you better. That weird exercise about a bear eating a sandwich existed because a human being decided learning should be joyful. The moment users understood that the content was being generated by the same technology that writes marketing emails, optimized for throughput, not for joy, the enchantment broke. And here's the brutal irony. Luis van Ahn built Duolingo because he believed education was a human right. That mission was real. It was the reason people forgave the aggressive streak notifications, paid for subscriptions they barely needed, and defended the app for years. But somewhere between the IPO and the all-time high of their stock, the mission became the marketing. The democratization of education quietly became the automation of education. You don't build a brand on empathy and gut it for efficiency. That's not a pivot, that is a betrayal. As of February 2026, Duolingo is in a strange in-between state. The business is profitable, revenue is growing, 52 million people open the app every single day, but the stock is down over 80% from peak to trough. A law firm has launched an investor investigation, and the core question remains unanswered. Can Duolingo convert free users into paying customers if those users no longer trust what they are learning? The community forums are still gone. The contractors and past workers are still gone. The Irish course still has voices that mispronounce Irish words. Van Ahn says 100 million daily active users by 2028. He says AI will make Duolingo better, not just cheaper. Maybe he's right. Maybe the fundamentals win in the end, but no financial model can answer the question that actually matters. Do people still feel something when they open the app? Because that feeling was never in the code. It was in the people who wrote the lessons, and those people are gone. If this kind of story, the gap between what a company says it stands for and what it does when the money gets good, if that resonates with you, a subscribe genuinely helps us keep making these videos. We're building something here, and your support is what makes it possible.